Hello, this is Claire Matara from the Amazon again in Peru. It's the 19th of June 2021 and this is my second video about my stones that I'm doing today. So I found that I haven't told all my stories yet. Special mention of ayahuasca work by the Copiapos. So beautiful. That is the ayahuasca work they make. The energy of ayahuasca inspires them to make artwork like that. This is another piece of ayahuasca, which I have probably shown you before in another video. It's always with me. And my walking stick from the Amazon. This is actually, they call it caña brava, so it's like a weed, and that's really great for when I'm not feeling quite so steady, because I'm in my 70s. And of course, never forget Meher Baba and his beloved Mehera. Yes, this is a picture that Mehera sent to me herself, and it has been inscribed by her at the back. So, what a blessing. Alright, so here we are with some more stone stories, some more stone tales. What pops in my mind here is, it looks like a huge piece of meat. It's the from Lake Titicaca, from the island of the moon. It's not actually on the island of the moon, it's actually on the mainland, near Copacabana, which is called a tiny village, which was basically almost, I think it's basically an extinct village, which is called Sampaia. And I walked there for hours with my friend Roberta Silva, and we found lots of stones there that was sort of red agate, and if we were to cut that and polish it, it would probably come up really beautiful. But that's expensive, and I don't really know how to do it. But this is actually something similar, and it's been polished. I think it looks to me like an eye, but maybe not. We don't know. It's an agate, what we call an agate. Could have been a hollow that has been filled up with crystals by mineralization. And here it sits usually in this necklace, which is an ayahuasca necklace because it has the colors of ayahuasca, which what I made it. So it sits there. Yeah. Lake Titicaca, the Moon Island. What amazing walks. It was a big walk of about 7 hours, and we had backpacks with stones to take home. It was huge. Another thing I found there was this little thing, which looks a bit like that too, and it's not polished, so yes, it also has crystals in a hollow. And around Lake Titicaca there's a lot of stones, because this is very close to Lake Titicaca. Yeah, it's a really special place. It's a really special place. And recently they have been doing some cleaning up, so it's not quite so filled with rubbish and plastic bottles. So they've really been cleaning up, which is lovely. So this is one that actually, it's a funny thing. It looks like a sort of a monster with two eyes, and it's basically a piece of coral. And I found it at the Lima Beach. At Lima Beach it has a place where the pier goes out to this wonderful restaurant that sits in the ocean, and where the people play in the water with their surfboards. Right on the corner of that is actually a place of sweet water where people often go and wash themselves off. So there's a well coming out of the ground right on the edge of the ocean on that place, which was really amazing to find, and there were special stones in that, and one of those was this piece of coral, but I think it would have been dropped in there by a big wave or something like that. It's possible. One more, looks like a funny sock person, sock puppet. I've been very involved in groups that are called mud fossil groups, and they are basically investigating how a lot of the stones that we find on the earth are actually body parts of giants or anything else. It could be giants, could be people, could be things, animals, and when you start looking for it, it looks like there's little faces everywhere, which can be a bit disconcerting. But for me, fantasy is as important to me as factual knowing, because the fantasy influences us also very much, and it has to do with how we feel inspired to live our life. You know, a lot of people who are so-called scientific also spend a lot of time with computer games or movies or videos, and this also is to do with fantasy. So it's maybe like a quantum field where we can play and create and imagine things, and then sometimes they start taking form in our life. And so it's really important that we are thinking good thoughts and think happy thoughts to create beautiful things in our lives. And it looks like nature is coming to us in the sense of having a soul, a spirit, an identity, maybe not just one, but a multiple type of identities. Histories are in the stones, and maybe that's why I've always felt so attracted to the stones. Always makes me think a lot. I always think of, what are the story, you know? What's the story of this little ammonite thingy? This little... It talked to me once in an ayahuasca session and said it was very good to eat, a bit like a shrimp. So, when you're with ayahuasca, things can start talking. Oh yeah, talking. On one of my trips, I ended up on the way south to my friends in south of Chile. I ended up stranded basically in a village called Copiapo, and it is actually a mining village. Apparently it used to be, it's in the Atacama Desert on the south part of it. It used to be a place with trees apparently, but through all the mismanagement or the desertification, I don't know, it became a deserty sort of place. And it is a place that has the most amazing mineral museum, and mining is a really, really big thing there. And you possibly remember the time that there were 30 miners stuck in the ground for almost 30 days. That was in that place. So going to the village square, you see old men sitting on benches, and a lot of them are miners who have lost a kidney or they're on dialysis. Those are people who've been in the mines and worked in the mines. I met a guy there who was selling crystals, and he was kind of close to 70, I think, and he'd been working in the mines most of his life, and he also had kidney problems. He also had to have dialysis, I think. But he said he still went into the mines at times, and that it was a special permit that was given to ex-miners who could go in and collect some stones if they wanted to from certain areas. I don't know if this is true, but that is something that I understood from him. And when he took me to his house, the whole place was absolutely chock-a-block with crystals. It was just tossed everywhere, and I ended up, he said to me, just go around and do something if you want to. I just went like, oh wow, this is amazing, can I have a look, you know? And he said, yeah, I dug around in all the different places, and I couldn't take stones with me because I was traveling and I had ayahuasca with me, and it was all really too much weight and too much going on. So I ended up just collecting this one. This one is a tiny little crystal which is so perfect. It has perfect 6 sides. Most natural crystals are not perfect, you know. And this was one of the special ones. I don't know if you can see it properly, but anyway, all the sides are very even, which makes it very beautiful. And I ended up taking a lot of his bigger crystals, dusted them off and put them in different places in the house until the whole house was sort of basically lit up with crystals. Yeah, it was a very, very nice experience. Later on he died, and his son sent me a notice that he had died. And peace, brother. Thank you for allowing me in that world for a little while, where there was so much beauty of crystals. I really felt a lot of presence of the crystals there. And yeah, there's another story connected to that, which was a little bit interesting. I ended up helping. I stayed there because I was waiting for some money to come through so I could go on to Santiago. And I found a residential hostel kind of thing. And I talked to the people, and they said that I could help them if her husband was basically very crippled after a stroke. And she said, could I help him? And so I had a look at him, and I started massaging his feet until they actually took shape again, and he could actually put his feet on the ground again. He had not had therapy after his stroke, so he actually kind of, his legs grew kind of a bit funny, and then later on I moved his legs around so he could walk on his feet again. And by the time I left, the husband was walking again, who was also in his 70s. So that was very touching. And then they asked me to look at something about his son, because his son had a lot of horrible court cases, and they allowed me to, they set up a meeting with the son. And the son was actually a mining prospector, and as I started talking to him, I realized that he had done something. He was looking for copper in that area. It was a copper area. And as he was trying to, I said to him, you touched something you shouldn't have touched. You touched some ancient stuff from the native people, from some funeral area or something like that. And he said, yes, it's true. They were trying to make a new road for the mining, and they were going through a certain area which they hadn't been to before. And so to allow the bulldozers to go through, he basically touched some antiquities and moved them over to the other side and just pushed them aside. He didn't want the project to be slowed down by this kind of research, that they had to go and look at the antiquities, and maybe it was a site that had to be preserved. So he just pushed it aside, and after that he got the most horrible court cases. And I saw that there were spirits from that funeral area that were angry with him. So I worked to appease the spirits and talk to them. Yeah, it was also, and I had seen in a dream around that time a very light green spirit, like really, it's a bit something between this and this, very light green. And that spirit was actually related to the copper, and that spirit said that he had not been respectful, and so we talked about that. Yeah, I hope that he got some healing from that situation. I told him about what the reason was and what he could do to make it better, and he had to ask his bosses to be more respectful to the environment, because it actually could jeopardize the projects, and they could lose a lot of money if things were going wrong. So it pays to be respectful, really. Always makes me think that if you have a nice house and you have spirits there, or you have history there, that if someone just comes in and starts ripping things out, wouldn't you be angry if that was your house, you know? So it's always good to be respectful. Ask them if you can go in there, and what you have to do, check out what you have to do to make it okay for you to go there and do your project. But they can be open to negotiation, so otherwise they can make things dangerous for the work and cause accidents to happen. So something to really be aware of. Even though we think we can just shove things around and rape the earth, it's not really in our benefit to do that. Not even in our benefit. You might think that you get a lot of money, but uh, the, the the results of it still very negative for you. So that's my message for the second video. God bless, leave a like, subscribe, and tell me another story if you feel. Lots of love, God bless.